All right, I think we're going to have a few people joining us today. Guys, it's just me and Mike to start with. Jimmy is up north. He's gone up to visit his folks, and he's going to be joining us shortly, hopefully. If not, this is going to be a very short Facebook Live because I know he's got some chord-based stuff planned that he wanted to show everybody. But if he's not able to join us today, we'll do that next week. So before that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about what we spoke about last week and the poll that I did about people wanting to come back and do some in-person stuff and how that kind of will fit in with what we're doing at the moment with the online lessons and everything. So the first thing that I want to be kind of clear on really is that the majority of people seem to be happy to continue online. So if you are happy to continue online and you're not keen on doing any meetup events, that's absolutely fine. I certainly don't want to put any pressure on anyone to come and see us in person, but if you want to, I do want to put some things in place so that we can do that. So yeah, went to visit a couple of places yesterday that I wanted to talk a little bit about, and then suggest some possible dates so we can kind of get this thing rolling. So venue number one was what used to be the Charles Cryer Theatre in Carshalton. It's now called Cryer Arts, I believe. And as I said last week, that's a venue that I'm very familiar with. I used to go there a lot when I was a teenager. It was one of the few places you could go if you were under 18 and you could watch bands and you could play, and I did some gigs there. So it's a great place. And then I think a year or so ago, Sutton Council got rid of it and it got taken over by a kind of private company. So I know the guy who runs it pretty well. I've known him for a long time. And they obviously, like a lot of theatres at the moment, they're losing a lot of money. They're not able to put any performances on, so they are looking to hire their rooms out to other things. They've got a bunch of spaces actually, but there's one particular room that I think would work really well for us. It's quite a big space, quite a long space, so we could even kind of partition parts of it off and have like a waiting area. We could easily get, I think, 5 or 6 of us in there, even with social distancing. So obviously, we are going to have to do some kind of risk assessment. We're going to have to make sure that people are very clear on what we expect. So that's something that I'll put together. But yeah, this particular venue is great because the room itself is on the ground floor. There are 2 doors which open directly into the room, so we don't have to have any of the, have to wait to be let in stuff. It's like glass fronted, so you can kind of see in and see out. And it opens up into a little courtyard, which at the moment is being used as a car park. But I spoke to the guy yesterday, and I know that he is planning on putting on some open air events. So from a practical perspective, I think that would be a really good place because it's going to be big enough to hold small groups. There's plenty of waiting areas. It's also got a little cafe and a restaurant which was open yesterday. It was nice to see some people in there, and an outside area as well if the weather's nice. So if you prefer to just hang around outside, you can, and we can even have the doors open, so we've got plenty of fresh air coming in and out. So lots of pros on that venue, and also in terms of parking for those of you who drive, and I know that this is a big issue, especially for parents. We've got the Westcroft Leisure Centre just pretty much next door. There's a big parking area there, and there's also another car park, I think, just a couple of minutes away in Carshalton High Street. So parking's going to be good. I suppose the only possible con is that for public transport, it's not so great, especially coming from Croydon. I think I'll have to check this out, but I'm pretty sure the 157 goes there if you get a bus. But they're annoyingly, even though it's not very far from Croydon, there's no direct train link from any of the Croydon stations to Carshalton. So if you are coming on public transport, then you would need to get a bus, and I don't think it's the quickest bus route there. Actually, I think there are a couple of others as well. 407 goes there, but again, if I remember rightly from living in that area, that is a very long, arduous bus journey, which it needn't be. But yeah, so that's option number one. Option number two is in South Norwood, which is obviously the other end of Croydon, might be closer to some of you. And there's a great venue there called Stanley Halls. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Mike. Have you ever heard of Stanley Halls?
Yeah, I've heard of Stanley Halls.
Have you
Yeah,
ever
a
been
bunch
there?
before. No, I haven't. No.
It's great. I was really disappointed with myself that I'd never been there before, because it's huge. There's so much stuff. Like, the guy showed me all around the building, what they're doing at the moment as well, because he told me how much money they're losing every month. Is they are streaming live performances, so they're having bands in and theatre acts and whatever else in to perform, and then they're streaming them online. So they can't have an audience in there, but they can have the performers in there. So
Cool.
so that's some stuff that they're doing. And again, there's a really nice space in there that would be great for us. It's like a kind of like a, it's difficult to explain, but it's like sort of on like the lower ground level, meaning it's basically in the basement, but the ceiling is very high, it's very light. There's a door that goes straight in. Again, it would be a good size for us to do some stuff in there. Pros and cons. Oh, Seb's looking it up already. Look.
Yeah, me too.
From Carshalton Station. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So from Carshalton Station, it's not bad if you can get to Carshalton Station. That's the only other thing. From
What about Vicky? Do you know Carshalton Beaches? Is that close at all?
I do know Carshalton Beaches, and I know you can get there from West Croydon, but it's not walking distance from Carshalton Beaches. You then need to get another bus. So yeah.
Yeah, I just looked up another one because I saw Sev's comment. Thanks for that, Sev. I looked up from Croydon, and they said if you want to take a train, you got to get the tram to Mitcham first. Looks like. So that's a bit like, going one way then the other. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not
I think the other way to do it is to go from Croydon to Sutton and then go from Sutton to Carshalton. That's the other way. Yeah. Carshalton Beaches is too far to walk, definitely. So sorry, yes. So back to Stanley Halls, great venue. Now that is great for public transport. It's literally like around the corner from Norwood Junction Station, and Norwood Junction, as I'm sure you guys know, is a pretty big kind of hub station. The only thing about that is, again, parking. It's not. I think we might have some of the same issues that we've had at the hub, to be honest, with people finding places to park, because there aren't, from what I could see, there aren't any car parks. I don't know that area as well, but from what I could see, there aren't really any car parks. And I did sit in a horrendous amount of traffic yesterday, because at the moment they've got 4-way temporary lights at Norwood Junction, which some of you may be familiar with. So I was late for the appointment because I was sitting in this traffic. So I thought, well, if the traffic's bad now, when there aren't so many people out and about, that may not be great for that. But
yeah, Vicky, I grew up around there, and I know where it is actually, and parking's bad, and also it's not a factor at the moment. But Boris said today he wants football fans back in the stadiums by October. So if we were there in October as well. When it's game days, it's like you can't even drive around there. Yeah. Right.
Okay. See, not being into football, like that kind of thing. Although I did drive past the ground. Yeah, no, you're right. I should have spotted that when I drove past. And I've also had issues even in the hub. Actually, I've had issues with people finding somewhere to park around there on match days. So okay, all right. So it's looking like the Charles Cryer or the Cryer Arts, whatever it's called these days, would be a viable choice then initially. And also, you know, I think it would be worth trying them both out, but let's maybe start with the crier. And parking is very important. Exactly. Yeah. So let's maybe start with the crier, even though it's not technically in Croydon. I do think it's probably going to be the easiest place for both for parking, and also it is doable on public transport. Just, you know, maybe not quite as convenient as going to Norwood Junction. So, okay, so they're the two venues. I'm also looking at another venue potentially in Coulsdon next week. Again, I don't know. I don't know how. I know that's going to be very convenient for at least two of our students, but for anyone who doesn't live in the immediate vicinity, I'm not sure how convenient that's going to be. So again, I need to look into that. Jimmy's joining us. Here he is.
I don't know how long he's been waiting. Maybe he's been...
Oh, he's all there, ready to go with his guitar. There he is.
Hello.
What are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How you guys doing?
Good.
We're good. How's the north? Is it still there?
Yeah, still here. Yeah, I'm gonna have some Yorkshire puddings at some point, I'm sure.
And some Yorkshire bitter. Excellent, Jimmy. I know you're ready. You're ready to go. So I'm just going to finish what I'm saying here. Rebecca's saying parking would be no issue in Coulsdon. Absolutely right. So what we basically need to do is, guys, I've got the 1st of August kind of provisionally booked in my head as a day. It's Saturday to do the first of these events. Now, I've spoken to the guys about it. Obviously, they're still running their lessons. It's a Saturday. So, you know, the lessons will still run as normal, but I'm planning on, if I can, I mean, obviously I need to go back to these places and see if they're available. I think they've got plenty of availability, to be honest. So what I'm thinking is 1st of August, if we can get together, what we'll do is it'll just be really, really informal. I'm not going to do lessons because the lessons will be, you know, you're still getting plenty of opportunities to do the lessons, but I'll book it for say 3 or 4 hours, and then we'll do some kind of 1 hour like song workshops for different levels, different lessons. So you know, it's not going to be, oh, come along and get your checklist ticked off. We've got all that covered, but this is purely just for people who want to come along and actually be in the same room with some other people and play some music and just have a bit of fun. So I'm going to be running those myself, providing we have enough people interested. And, you know, as I said at the beginning of the call, the majority of people seem happy to stay online, but I do know from speaking to parents that it would be nice to do some stuff for the kids and get the kids together. And, you know, also I know that there are some of our older students who would like to do that as well. So when I get off the call, I'm going to set up a little poll again in this group, and it's going to be, are you available on the 1st of August? Which venue would you like to come to? And then that will give me a clear idea of who's available. Yeah, exactly like the old jam sessions, Sev. Yeah. So yeah, remember those. It's been a while since we've done those, isn't it? So literally just turning up, playing a few songs together, and you know, maybe even like the old showcases, we could even have a little drink in the bar afterwards if it's open as well. Jimmy, you're not going to be there. But yeah, so anyway, that's the plan. I hope that that's useful. Obviously, a lot of organisation. I know I'm not going to please everybody, because I know some locations are going to be more convenient for some students than others. So I've got to weigh that up. The other thing we need to let you know quickly as well, and I'm sure Mike's been telling his students this, is that Mike's off. So he's teaching tomorrow, and then I basically forced these guys to take some time off. So Mike is taking next week off, and Carlos and Dominic and me will be co-teaching, because he's such a good teacher. You see, we need 2 teachers to actually sit in and take his lessons.
At least.
At least, yeah. So I'm going to be teaching with Carlos on Tuesday, for anyone who comes on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday and Saturday, I'm going to be teaching with Dominic. So, but we're still going to be on Mike's link. So the link is going to be the same. We're just going to be logged into his account and taking the lessons from there. And then Jimmy will be also taking some time off too as well. So I wanted to let you know about that. And also WhatsApp videos, guys. If you send them to Mike next week, he's off completely. He's not going to be doing anything like that. So if you want a quick response, send your videos to me instead. Just Mike's students. Obviously, Jimmy's still going to be around. Anyway, that's that for me. Jimmy's here. So I know, Jimmy, you've got some chord-based stuff that you'd like to do with.
Well, I thought we were going to do this next week, but
oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. I was under the impression that perhaps because Mike said something about doing a chord thing together, although it's just whether or not we've planned this.
Well, I'm sure you've got at least half an hour's worth of stuff to talk about when you do your ones, Jimmy. So maybe we could do a prepper.
Ooh.
Why don't you talk about what you're going to do and maybe give some examples?
Okay.
We got 10 minutes or so.
Okay, so I wanted to do a rundown of just different ways to play chords, but so you can basically kind of get to the point you can put your own stamp on things, and I want to take it through level by level. So if you're doing G4 stuff, like even if you're doing young beginner or junior 1, there's you've got your 4 chords, you've got your G, you've got your C, your E minor, and your G7, and just having different ways to kind of to voice those chords. For example, with our junior 1 stuff, we can play a G like that, but we could also play a G like this. It just sounds a bit cooler. Yeah, I think just little kind of variations and just ways around, and how we can take a song with like using the chords from each kind of level, and we can kind of find different ways to play those chords which will completely transform how something sounds. So some of my students, we've done an example where we took the chords, this is for my singing 1 students, we took the chords to Knocking on Heaven's Door, which is just G, D, and C. And we've made little, very slight changes to them. So we had things like, and it's like, ooh, mysterious and dark, and
Very
I
nice.
didn't do anything when I used more than 3 fingers at once there, so more than level appropriate. But it's just, I know a lot of the things that we do is just, can we do the chord, can we do the exercise, but we haven't really done much in terms of putting our own spin on things and trying to be creative, and that's kind of what I would like to encourage with just finding new ways to play different chords, because we used to do things like chord of the week, where I remember showing you guys an A, and then I think we did this, playing an A like that. It's 2 fingers and it sounds great, and just little tips and tricks of how we can play some very, very nice, tasty chords, and slowly get you all into jazz without you realizing it.
Getting you into jazz by stealth.
Stealth jazz. So that's kind of a bit of things, but use my words. Sorry, I've been on a lot of trains.
I bet, yeah. Maybe wash your hands.
I have many times. Yeah, so I kind of want to talk about that kind of thing, and obviously if there's any suggestions or any types of chord that people are like, oh, what is a chord? We can just really go in on chords, because it's one of the most overlooked areas on the guitar.
I think especially for guitar players as well, a lot of people learn how to play chords. Like that's very often the first thing that people learn, isn't it? When you go on, all these YouTube sites, learn these 4 chords and play zillions of songs. and people learn the chords and they learn the shapes and they learn where to put their fingers, but they don't really understand what a chord is and how it works and how they relate to each other. And I know Mike touched on this a little bit in the songwriting thing that you did a few weeks ago, where you talked about, you know, where you broke the chords down. But yeah, that would be really useful, because it does, you know, yeah, you can just learn 4 chords and play a bunch of songs, but if you're not understanding how those chords are created and why, there's this whole massive area of knowledge that you're not getting, you know. So,
Well,
sorry, Karen.
I was just think that made me think. I've said this to loads of my students before, and some students would have heard me say this multiple times. But like when I was young, I remember going into music shops where they sold books and like the tab for songs and albums and things, and there would be a chord book which is like A4 and about this thick, and I always used to look at it and go like, well, how could anyone remember all of those chords? Like, and I know that a lot of students.
I've got a couple of those.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people have that experience when actually no one remembers all those chords in the book. What people do is they learn how the chords are built, and then you can be creative and find all of those shapes yourself.
Yeah.
No one's remembering shapes.
Yeah. And also the way that some of those books are set out as well, like it's alphabetically. So they start at A and they show you all the different kinds of A chords you could possibly play, and then A sharp, and then B, and then immediately you're into bar chords, you're into, you know, diminished chords and all kinds of crazy chords that as a beginner you're not going to need to know probably ever, you know, unless you get into jazz later on. But yeah, so like it doesn't even, and people sit and think, oh, I'm going to learn every chord from A to G, and you know, there's loads of them. But yeah, without actually showing you how to do anything with them.
The other kind of side of it that I wanted to talk about, I think I did this with some of my junior twos actually, and it's basically about how to play something, but it's kind of taking it where you're kind of doing exactly what's written, but making it musical. And we did this using accents, and I don't know, we don't really speak about this much, and I do it a lot in my song classes, but I don't think we really do it much in the levels of G4, for example. We were going through a chord progression. I'll give you guys an example now, I guess. I've got my guitar, I'm here. We were doing a chord progression from, I think it was C to F major 7, 3, 4, and what we were doing, we had an 8th note rhythm, which was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. But it sounds very mechanical and very robotic, and what we were doing in our class is we were emphasizing beats 2 and 4, where the snare drum would hit, and from it sounding very, it kind of transformed it and sounded a little more like this. And kind of experimenting with a few of just different rhythms, even if we went 1, 2, 3, and 4. I played it different there, but you kind of get the thing where it sounds way more musical and way cooler than playing it as written, and all kind of making some a bit louder and some a bit quieter, and
it immediately gives it more of a groove, doesn't it, as well? Yeah,
exactly. And we're not dealing with any new information. We're just changing how loud and softly that we strum, and if we already know the chords, we can do it with any chords we already know, and we can do it with any rhythms that we already know, just emphasizing certain points of it to make it more musical.
I think it's one of the most overlooked things in the, out of all guitar education. Though, really do, and musical education, because of it's so important to get you into the groove, like you're saying, Vicki, and it's something that all the great players have, even if they haven't learned it from a book. But it's like you get that feel and you start doing it naturally. Like all good players do it naturally.
It's hard to do it from a book, though. I mean, I've seen books that teach it, but you can't really teach that. You can't really learn that just from looking at a piece of paper. Again, it's all, we talked about this loads. It's all to do with the amount of music that you're listening to, and you know, especially, I mean, it doesn't even have to be guitar music, but just like understanding how the beats work, and you know, where to put those accents. That's the kind of thing that comes naturally just from playing a lot, I think.
If you listen to it and you're aware of it, you've got a much better chance of being able to do it than
Absolutely. Well, I can do some of this stuff at our live meetup, guys. You know, this is exactly the kind of thing we can do. You know, look at accenting these chords on different beats and stuff like that. Cool. That sounds good. Apart from the stuff about the location, which I'll look at once we're finished, are there any other questions that anybody had? Sorry, I should have said at the beginning, we are still taking questions.
No, that's okay. Anita asked earlier, so this was a while ago now, about 10 minutes, are the venues for regular lessons? And I think you answered that since then, about no, this is for your kind of jam sessions outside of the lessons. But...
So, yeah, I'm looking initially at... just doing probably some monthly events for the next couple of months. I mean, it's, you know, again, as I said last week, it's so difficult to plan anything. And I've been listening to Boris's announcement this morning, and I'm still not entirely clear on what we can and can't do. So as I said, for the moment, I want to keep the main lessons online until we know that we can definitely, you know, get into a venue that's going to be suitable, and that, you know, we can put all of the things in place. And again, as I said last week, I don't want to rush into anything if it's possible that we then end up having to go back online anyway, because that is a possibility. I mean, you know, hopefully not, but at the same time, the venues that I'm looking at, I am also thinking long term, and I'm thinking, you know, would they be okay for long-term lessons? And certainly at the moment, I think both of them would be, but again, it depends on how much more things open up over the next few months, you know, whether they are going to be starting to put performances and things on. But both of those places that I visited have got lots and lots of rooms, and they both said to me as well that if we did want to book anything on a regular basis and it ended up clashing with something else, it would be no problem at all to move us to a different room. So we just have to be pretty light in what we use, you know. So we would probably only be able to have, you know, a couple of amps there and, you know, a couple of guitars. So, you know, we wouldn't have all the stuff that we had in place at the last place, but that's probably not a bad thing. You know, what do we need really? You know, a couple of music stands. Everyone brings their own guitars and tuners. You know, we've got tablets that we can use for metronomes and things like that. So yeah, it's a bit of an unknown at the moment, and obviously I do want to get back to doing in-person lessons as soon as we can, but at the moment it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to start planning for that without knowing that we're definitely going to be able to do that, if that makes sense. All right, any other questions, guys? Or Mike on the Facebook feed?
No, not that I can see. No, sorry. No, nothing I can see. So
Okie dokie. Jimmy, did you have anything to add?
practice.
All right. Cool. So Jimmy, yeah, go and spend some time with your family. You've just got there, so it's very nice of you to join us. But I think you need to go and have a beer and eat some Yorkshire puddings with your family.
I will.
And yeah, both going to be teaching tomorrow as usual. And then again, yeah, it's going to be me, Carlos, and Dom taking Mike's lessons next week. So we will see you all soon. Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye bye.
bye.